Good morning, Dreamhouse Nation. James Lewis of TDH. Our guest today is...
Here he is, a philosopher, a writer, a comedian, a man who knows the future but won't give away the fiery ending, a man who plays a golf ball the size of hail, a man who has forgotten more than you'll ever forget, the next guest on this very program, Tim Bedore. Well, thank you very much. It's nice to be here. How are you doing today?
Doing great. It is always a pleasure to have you on the show, Tim.
Very happy to be here.
So what is new for you in 2023?
Sadly, not a lot. We've got this thing here in Minnesota. I live in Minneapolis, called winter, and this one is significant. I don't know about you, but since COVID, life has gotten a tad smaller, and I'm still not in the habit of going out much. And I kind of think it's like social or COVID asthma, where there's probably no reason to think you can't fly or whatever. But yeah, I haven't flown since right before the pandemic hit. And the only thing that I do is go out and play bar trivia. That is just about the only time I go out. My wife and I really don't go out to dinner so much. And I think we just have to get over it. But yeah, so there's not a whole lot new in 2023. I'm just looking forward to spring and golf again. So that's basically it. We might travel in February. We're thinking of trying to travel, but maybe even just driving somewhere as opposed to flying.
Exactly. It's always good to get out, get about, and doing stuff. I was going to say, my listeners tell me when they are out and about and they're, on a road trip and stuff like that, they love listening to a certain program. They love listening to the Agnostic's Guide to Heaven. What is the difference between an atheist and an agnostic?
Very significant. An atheist believes that there is no God. There is no supreme being, and they're wrong because you can't prove that point. An agnostic is somebody who says you cannot say one way or the other what there is, whether there is or isn't. That is the only factually, logically correct position to take, and it's the teeniest sliver of people. There are more atheists, I believe, than agnostics, but that's always how I've been, even as a kid growing up in a very Catholic family and school and town. I didn't see where they could be so certain about all this stuff. Even in second grade, I remember having doubts about that. But, I don't disbelieve. You can't prove it. I kind of like to lean on what you can prove.
Exactly. It's one of those situations where nobody's come back to tell us, this, that, or the other thing, or at least in recent years, no one's come back.
Right. And, you grow up, I just remember being in Catholic school, and then when they brought up the idea that there were other religions, and I thought, well, yes, there's other religions, but they don't think they're right. I mean, they can't believe that they're right. We're right. They're wrong. And the nuns, to their credit, said, oh, no, they think they're right. And there's more of us than them. No, actually, there's more of them than us. And I said, oh, my God, what if we're the wrong religion? And that really started, the heavy questioning of all the stuff. I like to lean on what you can prove.
So what are the things that you cover on Agnostic's Guide to Heaven?
It was interesting. It really kind of started out, actually, when Robin Williams died. I really started thinking back to my time in San Francisco in the 80s, which is, I was in radio there and then kind of transitioned full-time to stand-up comedy. And Robin was just one of the nicest people in the world, first of all, but he was in the clubs all the time. He was doing guest sets at the 4 clubs in San Francisco, and you'd see him often. And then when he died, you hear that he had anxiety and depression issues, and I'm next to certain that the reason he would do a guest set at one club and then another club and then another club in the same night was he was, getting away from the anxiety and depression, and that being on stage was how he did it. And that was one of his drivers, obviously super talented, but what drove him in some respects was this thing. And I started, trying to figure out mine. Do I have a driver? And I wasn't bullied, or my parents loved me and I didn't feel disrespected, or, I was semi-popular enough. I didn't feel like an outsider. But what was my driver was growing up Catholic and just being petrified that I was going to hell for most of my youth. I just thought, I'm going to hell because I don't feel what they feel. And so for the first time, I kind of realized, and that's why on stage I've always talked about growing up Catholic. I have great respect, appreciate, a lot of what I saw and did in Catholic schools, but also couldn't buy it. And then I thought I was going to hell because I didn't believe I wasn't filled with their spirit. And that was a big driver. So those were the stories that I wanted to tell initially. And then there were just lots of stories of stuff that I couldn't fit in stand-up and stuff that I never fit in my radio essays and all the various things that I just wanted to tell about. I literally did get an archery merit badge at Boy Scout camp on mescaline. Now, that's kind of a unique story. Most people cannot say that they did that, but it's a long story, but that did happen. And, where do you fit that? Where do you put that? So that's what an agnostic Skydavin became, just kind of a storytelling vehicle. And I put it in the guise of that I'm a life coach and a spiritual guru, which is just a framing device for telling these stories. And then it's just a writing exercise. I like to write, enjoy having, a weekly, bi-weekly essay to write or a thing to come up with. And, you start with sentence number one and that somehow generates sentence number two. And it's, just a creative, fun thing to do. So far, I haven't run out of stuff to say, or maybe I haven't. Nobody's telling me that. I keep doing it.
Nice. So I understand that your start in radio catapulted you into comedy.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, I grew up in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, which is, north in a small town, so you're not near show business. In fact, we didn't even get 3 networks. We only got 2. So, radio was the closest thing that you could do to being an entertainment. I just grew up listening incessantly to my transistor and would try to pull in Chicago radio stations at night. Loved music and broadcasting, and then, you start seeing the Johnny Carson show and just fell in love with broadcasting. But being funny was always the thing about it that was the most important reason to get in. And when I got into radio, comedy clubs were just starting to take off. And so then, these comedy club owners would hear my show in Sacramento and then Houston and then San Francisco, and they'd say, well, yeah, that guy would be good interviewing the comedians that we have coming in this week. And so then I'd come out to the shows, and then I would start hosting these shows. And then I'd start throwing in some jokes. And pretty soon, the comics, who were, terrific and supportive, said, well, you should do stand-up. I mean, you should really just start putting an act together. So I really kind of started doing that and just was very intrigued by that process. And by the time I was in radio in San Francisco for 3 years, station got sold, and I just decided that stand-up was if I'd had weekends off in radio, I'd still be in radio. But because I had to work 6 days a week and it interrupted my golf, that's why I transitioned full time. I love radio and still do. But if I had weekends off, I swear it's possible I'd still be in San Francisco doing radio. So yeah, and it was so, such a wonderful environment at that time in the 80s. We would go to the clubs, and then after that, be up at Dana Carvey's house playing ping pong, Paula Poundstone and Dana Carvey and various people. It just was a great group, and we were working a lot. It was pretty damn attractive.
Nice. So it sounds like you had a strong support group. You mentioned several folks. Any other folks that were a part of that group that helped you to feel like you belonged on stage?
Well, comedy is essentially a meritocracy. You earn your way. And if you're funny, you earn your way in. And so it's not that people wouldn't like you as a person if you didn't do well and weren't doing something of value comedically, but you get the respect of your peers just based on your product and what you're putting out there. So, and everybody knows how hard it is and how difficult it is. So for some reason, it's really a fraternity of, supportive people. But, at that time in San Francisco, Bobby Slayton and Kevin Pollak and Bob Goldthwait, just a number of, talented people. Jake Johansson, who was on Letterman 47 times, was one of the guys I, just started doing open mics with. And, you help each other. We would get together after shows and have something to eat at 2 a.m., which is something you can do in your 20s. It just became, I guess, a parallel might be like the military when you're going through boot camp and you'll never forget those people, but we're supportive of each other.
Nice. So it sounds like kind of like a close-knit, like a family.
It is, very much so. And then, we all moved to from San Francisco to LA to take your shot at show business, and we ended up, often at my place, having holiday dinners and whatever. I mean, you just do become your social group and a bit like family, yeah. And we're, pretty much all friends to this day. I'm in touch with everybody, and we play Zoom trivia every third Monday. There's a bunch of comics from San Francisco that play trivia via the internet and stuff. So yeah, you get pretty tight.
Oh, that's awesome. So it sounds like there's a lot of great stuff going on with you. With 2023, any big tours coming up?
Not really. Things are starting to loosen up comedically. So I've got a theater date in Wisconsin, Oshkosh in February, and going to be another, actually it's an opera house in Indiana in April. So things are starting to loosen up, but those types of venues, they don't want to commit to a show because there's, you got to put out a deposit, whatever, there's money involved. Clubs can just cancel. But those types of shows can't. So it's just starting to loosen up. And in fact, I had not been on stage through COVID for like 2+ years and thought it was kind of over. I mean, do you remember your act? And then was last Christmas, somebody said, we're doing a show a year ago. Yeah, it was over a year ago. And I just said, okay. I don't know why I said okay, because I thought I haven't been on stage in 2 years. Now I got to do an hour.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, and it, after about 6 or 7 minutes, it literally was, oh, it is like riding a bike. Okay.
Nice.
It was fine. I was very afraid, but without, I prepared a lot more than I normally would for a show, but so, yeah.
Nice. Well, Tim, it is always a pleasure having you on the show. Before we let you go, where on social media and the web can our listeners find out more about you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook primarily. I lost my website. It was hacked, and I no longer have vaguebuttrue.com, damn it. And my daughter is helping me put up a new website because that's what she does. And yeah, other than that, An Agnostic's Guide to Heaven. And yeah, you can find me on Facebook.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom has products in stock and available to take home today. With 5 stores and almost 40 years in business, they are Ohio's appliance experts, and they help you to get the right product at the right price with a huge inventory. You can save 30 to 60% every day on everything from Bosch and Viking to LG, GE, and KitchenAid at unbeatable savings and in stock. Plus, Mattress Kingdom inside Appliance Factory has everything from Tempur-Pedic and Sealy, Stearns & Foster, and DreamCloud mattresses in stock. Stop by any one of Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom's 5 Ohio locations today or visit online at appliancefactory.com.
Good morning, Dreamhouse Nation. James Lewis of TDH. Joining us today is comedian Kostaki Economopoulos. Kostaki, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on.
It is always a pleasure having you on. We're excited. Our listeners request you all the time, and we're excited about having you back. What is new for you in 2023?
Oh, my. You know what? I've been wearing my University of Georgia national championship hat around everywhere I go. So that's been fun. I went to the game live this year. I've never been to any game that big a deal. I've never been to a playoff game or a giant national championship game. It just happened to be like 6 miles from where I live. And when Georgia beat Ohio State, like, my buddies reached out to me and started booking flights, and I had a bunch of friends come in town, and we all went. And I got to tell you, man, as a football nerd, it was such a pleasure. And even though it was a blowout, they're up like 50-7. Still another Georgia touchdown. Everyone's going bananas and cheering and jumping up and down, and it was just a pleasure. I loved it.
I can imagine. Yeah, one of those once-in-a-lifetime experiences. I mean, gosh, yeah.
Yeah, it literally, I probably literally is. That's the kind of thing I wouldn't normally go to. It's crazy expensive, and it's a big hassle, and you got to make plans sort of last minute by the nature of how it works. And it just all fell in my lap. It was on a Monday, and I was flying home Sunday night, and my buddies flew in Sunday night too. We ran around and drank too many beers, and it was just like, it was a coronation. It was exactly what I wanted. I called a blowout. My friends were trying to get me to not jinx it, but I was like, there's no way TCU is going to be competitive in this game. They were like the 7th best team in their division before the season. It paid 200 to 1 for them to even make the college football playoff preseason. That's not a team that's going to be able to hang with one of the juggernauts of modern football, and they couldn't, and it was really fun to watch.
It is amazing how many players over the last so many years from Georgia are in the NFL. I mean, it kind of felt like TCU, a college, was playing a professional team.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when at all the levels. If you go, like, a friend of mine took me to a Purdue game once, and they were playing some really small school. And you're just watching from the stands, even as a relatively casual observer, they look like they're different species. The Purdue players were so much bigger and faster than everybody else on the field. And, of course, at the highest level, it's even more so. Last year, Georgia had the most players drafted from a single college football team in the modern era NFL draft. It was 15 players from one team.
That is insane.
It's astounding when you think about it. And they won again after that. I mean, that is machine that is rolling on, they're on all cylinders right now. Now, these things come and go and ebb and flow and fade. And so I'm fully aware that we're in the golden era for a Bulldogs fan, and we better enjoy it while it lasts. But right now, they are an unstoppable force. So we'll take it.
And I feel bad because I don't remember who to credit this to, but you probably will remember. It reminded me of, there was a joke about Ohio State playing Harvard, and just how much they would crush them, and it kind of felt that way. Yeah,
right. That's what it looked like. We were a little bit nervous at the beginning because they went down and scored, and it was like 10-7 or something. We're like, well, maybe this is the thing. And then, of course, that was the last blip of even a little bit of concern. It just got completely out of hand after that.
Now, of course, our fans were in Ohio, so you have to give Ohio State credit. They gave you one heck of a game.
Oh, yeah. And, of course. And that quarterback earned himself an extra several $1 million just from the one game. Ohio State was for real, and that game could have gone either way. And that's another team that is built to last and built to be in the conversation every year. Of course, they should be in the Final Four. I said from the very beginning, it shouldn't be TCU, it should be Alabama. Mm-hmm. Obviously I've got sort of SEC bias, but the goal of the reason that you have a meeting is so that you can pick the 4 best teams, not the teams that have the 4 best records. That's the reason that you set it up, to have a meeting so that the minds, experts in the field can actually pick the 4 best teams instead of the 4 sort of trendy hot teams. Every year there's one of these sort of, TCU kind of teams that has a great record, and they're scrappy and they're better than you think they're going to be, and they're fun to root for. But can they really hang at a level higher than a team like Alabama? No, they can't. And I think they proved that this year.
Well, that's why I'm excited about December, January, February madness over the next couple of years, because I think they're expanding to like 12 teams at some point. I think that is going to be insane.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. Now, then we're definitely going to have the TCU kind of teams are going to be in. There's going to be 1 or 2 of those every year. So that's a whole new construct. And it's probably good for college football that you have the whole thing. And it sounds like, if I understand it right, they're going to have the top 4 teams have a bye and have the 5 through 12 play each other, and then you get to 8 teams. So, and it'll be stacked. I mean, those top few teams that have a bye are going to be huge favorites in the next round of games too. But it definitely allows these sort of upstarty, scrappy teams to have a glorious story arc. It's kind of cool.
Definitely. And so that game against Ohio State was in your old home stadium, the Mercedes-Benz Bowl, or Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Let's switch over to the NFL, because you guys are undefeated in 2023, the Atlanta Falcons.
Touché. Yeah, it's been hard. Those are my 2 teams, the football Bulldogs and the Atlanta Falcons. I don't follow baseball or hockey or basketball or even soccer. And if we had Aussie rules football around here, I'd probably follow that. But, so I'm really a 1-sport guy and a 2-team guy. And being a lifelong Falcons fan has hurt my feelings for my whole life. But I'm hanging in there with them, and I'm rooting for them. Our new fantasy is that we're going to get I blanked on his name. What's the matter with me? The quarterback from the Ravens. Why am I blanking? What's the matter with me? Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
That's our new daydream, because this year we spent all the cap money problems. We cleared the books. We're going to be one of the teams with the most money to spend next year. We clearly need a quarterback, right? We've got an urban fan base, right? We have a history of liking these sort of running, physical quarterbacks. And the Falcons got close to signing Deshaun Watson. They're clearly willing to make a splash, right? They want to make an upgrade. So that's our current daydream, that Lamar's going to come to Atlanta.
but you've already got a running quarterback, and you don't have to pay much for him. He's a third-round pick. I mean, he went, I think, 2-2. He won both of his games in January. Yeah, I mean, he didn't throw any interceptions, so I mean, he's had a good start to his career. Desmond Ridder.
I want Ridder to be the answer. That would be the best answer if you can get a cheap quarterback to be good. That's the best construct in the modern NFL that you can land on. But is that really what's going to happen? I don't know. One of those wins was against Tom Brady, who left in the second quarter. But, I mean, they played a team that wasn't trying to win. So, I don't know. He looks fine. He didn't dazzle me in the way that I hoped that he would, but he's still a kid, so, I'm rooting for him.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, he's very young, but he has done a great job at UC. He was a phenomenal standout for him, and I mean, he got him to the playoffs.
Right. Yeah, he gets all the credit for that. That was a team that was the TCU of that year, right? That was the team that came out of nowhere and was the Cinderella story. And if you can do that as the quarterback, there's something going on there. I mean, you're not playing with the same machinery around you, and to take a team that's not sort of ready for prime time on paper into prime time and succeed, I mean, he gets all the credit for that, for sure.
Well, the good news is you had a solid draft in 2022, not just including Ridder, but I mean the wide receiver Drake. You had a bunch of great defensive players, so I mean that's got to be a good start in the right direction.
Yeah, and Tyler Algier too is another rookie from this year. I think Drake's for real. I think he was a great pick. I think he showed me that this year that he's going to be a star for 10 years in the league. I didn't get that same feeling from Algier or Ridder the way some people feel that maybe we hit on those two, but we'll see. We'll see. It would certainly simplify the plan going forward if all three of those kids and some of the defensive players end up being legit starters / stars. That would be awesome.
Nice. And then I understand that, mock drafts aren't 100% by any stretch. Usually they're wrong more than they're right. But they got you going for offensive line from Northwestern and a receiver to reunite with Riddle from UC.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't see that one. I want them to pick defense. I want a star quarterback and to spend the rest of their money on the defense. If I'm the king, that's what I do. But, you could still have Ridder there developing. It's not like you have to give up on the kid, but he's so cheap. It would be okay to bring in a star too,
Exactly. Have Jackson for a couple years and then turn it over to him once he's got there. Or
you give him a year, you spend all your money on the other things and see where you are this time next year. And if Ridder isn't the answer after a full year, you'll know whether he's the answer by then. Plan A is he's the answer, and then you just spend all your money on all the other positions. And plan B is you go get a big time name the following year. So I'm okay with that plan too. That's not what I would do, but I get it.
So what's your opinion on flag football? Because that's what I understand the Pro Bowl is going to be.
You know what? I empathize. It's easy to complain about the Pro Bowl, and I've been complaining about it for years. But I will say I empathize with the powers that be who have been trying for years to find an answer, because we've established that in the last decade, these guys aren't going to play real football. They're just not. It's too risky for them. There's no reason for them to put their livelihoods at risk for what is an exhibition game. So they have to try to do something else, right? They've tried all the things. They've tried having them draft them almost like a fantasy team. They tried the skills challenge stuff. They have them playing dodgeball. They sort of have been playful with the game instead of serious, where they'll have whatever. Jeff Saturday goes in and plays for the other team for one play so he can snap it to Peyton one last time. They've made it a little bit of a sideshow to try to keep it interesting. And I think the flag football answer, amongst all the other terrible answers, might be the best answer. So we'll take a shot at that this year and see how it looks,
Definitely. I know that youth football has kind of gone that direction with incorporating a lot of flag football into it. So maybe, that'll inspire the next generation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a slightly different skill set. It's more about shaking your hips in open spaces than it is being a big sluggy dude, So it's fine. It's like when I was a kid, we played not a kid, but like a college kid. We played rugby, but we played sevens or eights or nines or something. So it's like half of the team. So it's not this scrummy sort of biggest guy wins. It's more of a wide open. It's almost like the football version of ultimate frisbee. It's like a big fluid game. So yeah, flag football lends itself to that. It's more about being quick and making use of the space you're in. It's a different skill.
So Kostaki, before we let you go, where on social media, where on the web, where is the best place for the Dreamhouse Nation to follow you?
Oh, yeah. Well, kind of ground zero to get connected to everything is Kostaki.com. 7 letters, Kostaki.com. And that'll get you to all the other things. Come find me on social media. It's easy to search Kostaki. It'll populate the rest of it on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. And also All Pro Lines is my football comedy brand. At All Pro Lines on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I'm out there. Come find me. Facebook, we've got a bunch of followers. They're super active on Facebook. So if you like football and comedy, come join us at All Pro Lines.
That is awesome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, James. Always a pleasure, man. Nice to talk some sports with you.
Appliance Factory in Mattress Kingdom has products in stock and available to take home today. With 5 stores and almost 40 years in business, they are Ohio's appliance experts, and they help you to get the right product at the right price with a huge inventory. You can save 30 to 60% every day on everything from Bosch and Viking to LG, GE, and KitchenAid at unbeatable savings and in stock. Plus, Mattress Kingdom inside Appliance Factory has everything from Tempur-Pedic and Sealy, Stearns & Foster, and DreamCloud mattresses in stock. Stop by any one of Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom's 5 Ohio locations today or visit online at appliancefactory.com.
Good morning, Dreamhouse Nation. James Lewis of TDH. Joining us for the third time is the actor, author, and writer, Stephen Tobolowsky. We are excited to have you on.
Thank you very much. It's fun. It's fun to be in Cincinnati again.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, shoot, all kinds of great things are going on here in Cincy, and we're excited to have you on. What have you been up to?
Oh, gosh. The pandemic has been transformative in terms of show business. I used to do a lot of shows over at Sony. That's where we did Silicon Valley. That's where we did Goldberg's. That's where we did One Day at a Time. All these shows I was doing over there. With the advent of COVID, now Sony looks like a ghost town.
Ooh.
I think the only show there now, I don't even think they do Jeopardy there anymore, but they do the Goldbergs there, but the place is empty. So it's kind of creepy, but what's happened is I believe I have been the beneficiary of other people's bad tidings, bad news. It's like if somebody gets sick from COVID, I sometimes get a phone call from the casting people in an emergency. Stephen, can you come in and work tomorrow? Stephen, can you come in and work in 2 days? So I'm on the list of people right now who still have not had COVID, knock on wood. So that's how it's affected me. So I've done a lot of jobs at the last second, and in places, I did 2 shows in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I did one in Salt Lake City and one in Portland. It's like everywhere that's not in California. And that's because the COVID restrictions here are so expensive. All the testing and everything you have to do. The producers move to places where they're not so strict with COVID, which is, of course, why everybody gets sick on the set.
Yeah.
So but that's where I've been going, and that's what I've been doing.
Nice. Well, I'm glad to hear things are being fruitful and productive for you.
Yeah. It's been an adventure. It's been an adventure.
Speaking of adventures, I understand this whole adventure started because you were traumatized by Godzilla as a child, and that made you want to be an actor?
Well, sort of, kind of. It's like Godzilla is the first movie I remember seeing. My dad took as a family, we did not go out to movies. So it's amazing to me, thinking back on this, why out of all the movies in the world, my father packed up the car with all the Tobolowskis, and we drove downtown Dallas and saw Godzilla. And I was so young at the time, I did not realize that the movie was a fiction. I thought it was a documentary. Mm-hmm. I thought that somewhere on the earth there was this giant lizard that breathed fire and was wiping out Japan, which I didn't even know was a place that existed. It scared me to death. But in a way, it imprinted me, and I thought, well, if you can't lick them, join them. Mm-hmm. Maybe I can become an actor in a movie and meet Godzilla, and maybe he could teach me how to have bad breath. But and really, as a child, when I was, you become transfixed by the things that terrify you sometimes. So I loved Frankenstein, Wolfman, Mummy, all these characters. And I thought if I became an actor, I could actually meet Godzilla, Frankenstein, Mummy. I could become friends with them, and I would not have to fear them. So in a way, you could say with a sort of twisted logic that Godzilla was the first step on the road to show business for me.
Nice. And of course, when we do the intros, we say your name, Stephen Tobolowsky. Are you glad we didn't say Steve Adams?
Man, you're filled with bad memories today. When I first came to Los Angeles, this is ridiculous. When I first came to Los Angeles, of course, I'm a young actor from college, from graduate school, looking to become a professional. So you have these trade papers that you look at for agencies, and then you cold call an agent. Most of them say no, but some of them say yes, and you go in and you meet an agent. The first potential agent I met was someone named Carol Farrell.
Awesome
and I
name.
went in and, awesome name. And she said, and who are you? And I gave her my little resume at the time, which had a few plays from college, like Who Cares? And she says, you're Stephen what? And I go, Stephen Tobolowsky. And she goes, no, not going to work. Not going to work. I can't sell you with a name like Stephen Tobolowsky. And I said, well, what name could you sell me as? And she said, if you were Steve Adams, I could sell you as an actor. I said, okay, how about this, Carol? How about I get two different pictures, two different headshots, one that says Stephen Tobolowsky and one that says Steve Adams. And if you get me a job with Steve Adams, I will be Steve Adams. And so I did. And somewhere back in a closet somewhere, I do have a stack of resumes that say Steve Adams. I wonder how much those would go for now. But I remember Carol Farrell did send me out, or tried to send me out, on one audition. And this is one of my first auditions. At the time, White Shadow was a big show on television. Do you even know what White Shadow is?
No, you got me on that one.
There you go. That's the thing about television. It is disposable. White Shadow was a huge, huge hit about, I believe it was a high school basketball team or a college basketball team, and a coach and teaching and the team of basketball and everybody like this. So I go into Carol Farrell's office and she says, Stephen, how tall are you? Because I'm a pretty big drink of water. She says, how tall are you? And I said, I'm 6'3". She looked at me with all seriousness and said, can you be 6'6"? And I said, yes, in 3-inch heels. And she said, no, I want to get you a job on this show, White Shadow, where you could be a basketball player, but they need the people to be 6'6" and over. And I go, Carol, there's no way someone 6'3" could suddenly be 6'6". That's not actable. That's what you call science and physical fact. So that was the last time I really had anything to do with Carol Farrell and Steve Adams. And that was, my first non-audition, painful. You have any more painful memories for me?
Yeah, I got Meal.
Oh! Now, okay. This is your redemption. Meal was transformative the same way Godzilla was, except Meal, this was back in the day, I believe Ronald Reagan was president. It was that long ago. And one of the first real jobs I got in California in show business was doing children's theater, 12th Night Repertory Company. And the show we did was called Meal, which was letters, which meant multi-ethnic American leaders. And it was a short show, maybe 30, 40 minutes long, in which it featured Manjura Nakahama, Father Junipero Serra, Elizabeth Blackwell, the first woman doctor, and John Baptiste Pointe-Sable, who was the black man who founded the city of Chicago. So it was this kind of, we did mime and we did puppets and we sang songs and we wore suits and we performed basically in elementary schools talking about how great there were great people in our country of all different colors and nationalities, that they all came together to make America great. Well, we got one job in a high school in Daly City outside San Francisco. Our show was not aimed at high school students. It was aimed really for elementary school. But this high school also had problems. They just had race riots, terrible race riots, in which I believe 2 students were killed. And we had to come to the school under police escort. We went on stage, and the school auditoriums are huge. So this school auditorium, maybe 1,000 kids at least. And they're all screaming and booing at us and throwing things at us. And we start doing this kid show for them, multi-ethnic American leaders. I remember them throwing Coke cans at us. And I don't mean empty Coke cans. I mean full Coke cans, to where if those things hit you, you'd go to the hospital and you break an arm. So I was the musician of the group. I was playing the guitar and playing the piano and doing the puppets, and we were all dancing. And everybody was laughing and jeering at us and screaming. We were almost on the verge of tears, but we kept going. And we kept doing this show. And we finished with the Jean-Baptiste Pointe-Sable story. And Rick Fitz, a member of our company, was black, wonderful musician, wonderful actor. And he sang the big final song of the show, which was quite beautiful and quite powerful. And the kids all stopped screaming and all stopped throwing things at us. And we finished the show. We bowed in silence. And then everybody started applauding. And everybody started stamping their feet and clapping. And it's almost like we couldn't get off stage. We kept bowing. I think we did an extra song for them because, and what that show did to me was, it taught me the power of art in this horrible, horrible situation. And we got a letter from the school superintendent a few weeks later who said that the riots in the schools had stopped. And he was certain it was because of Meal, multi-ethnic American leaders. It was certain it was because of our performance. And in my heart and in my mind, I thought, art is powerful and it can change minds and it can change lives. I think I'm going to stay here. It was transformative.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, the impact that you had it on those lives, I mean, that's phenomenal.
It was an amazing experience to to have it happen firsthand, from riots to people throwing things at you and hating you just for being there, to them shutting up, which was a big deal, to them clapping and applauding and wanting more. And in the end, stopping the riots.
Oh, wow. Now, of course, our listeners know, because we brought it up a couple times, the Cast of Thousands, but I want to talk about your other musical claim to fame, the band Radiohead.
This was one of the creepiest, scariest kind of episodes of my life. I was in college. I was a sophomore in college. In our movement class, you have a lot of weird classes. If you're an actor in college, you have weird voice classes. And this was movement. And so Jim Hancock, our teacher, took us out to a lake to do movement exercises and yoga and all sorts of things as the sun was setting. And he wanted everybody to get in a circle and kind of talk about, say, the first thing that came into your mind. That was the exercise. We lit a campfire and the sun was setting. And this was at the time, Lord of the Rings, not the movie, but the book became a part of popular culture. I mean, Tolkien wrote that book based on the First World War, but it had a resurgence in the early 70s. So this is like, 1972 or so, this story happened. Mm-hmm. So we're going around in a circle, and our teacher said, say the first thing that comes into your mind. And so we're going around in a circle, and people are going like, Frodo, Hobbit, Gandalf, Frodo. And then it gets to me, and I go, I get you're not who you say you are, to my teacher. And everything gets quiet. He goes, what do you mean? I said, I get you have, I had just heard this sound in my head, this noise, and it just made me talk. And I said, I get you have an assumed name, and your real initials are JK or JH, JL, JK or JL. He says, very good. Let's keep going around. And the next guy goes weed, and the next guy goes stoned, and the next guy goes Frodo, next guy goes beer. Anyway, the retreat ended, and a lot of the kids were going to stay there and continue to get high, and I was going to go home. And I'm walking to my car, and out of the shadows came my teacher and said, Stephen, why did you say what you said? And I explained what I just explained to you. I said, well, you said, say the first thing that came into your mind, and I heard this tone in my head, and I just opened my mouth, and that's what he said. He said, because it's true. I do have an assumed name, and those were my initials. So I ask you again, how did you know that? And I said, I don't know. At the time, I was in love with this girl, Beth, who we became a couple for many, many years. And I told her the same story. She was a year younger than me, so she was a freshman. And she said, so you just heard this tone in your head. And she said, do I make sounds? Do I make tones? And so I held her hand. I thought, well, this is a great excuse to hold a girl's hand. We were looking for anything back in the day. Mm-hmm. So I'm holding her hand. I go, I hear that you have 3 tones in the male range. It's interesting because males and females have tones in different ranges. Women have tones in a lower range. Men's have tones in the high range. Yours is in the high range. And most people have 1 tone, but you have 3. But your 3 are in harmony, and it's a perfect major third. I'm not too sure what it means, but usually the relationship of 1 and 3 mean a spiritual connection. 1 and 5 means a physical connection. And Beth looked at me and said, we are going to make a fortune. And I go, what are you talking about? She says, look, I don't care what you said. I don't know what you said. But what we're going to do is I'll be your manager. I'll bring people from the theater department up to you, And you hold their hands and you say that about the tones, whatever you say, it doesn't matter. We could probably charge 25 cents a person, maybe even $1, and we'll keep it together and it'll be our money. And I remember Beth and I were together for about 16 years. We kept a jar. And whenever I would read people's tones, we put the 25 cents or $1 in the jar. I think we ended up with something like, $20 or $30 at the end of several years. When Beth became rich and famous, she ended up winning the Pulitzer Prize for drama for her play, Crimes of the Heart, Beth Henley. David Byrne was very interested in her working on a movie, True Stories. And David came over to the house. He was doing a video for Road to Nowhere, and he wanted to know if we had a swimming pool. And I told him, yeah, we did. And so he wanted to shoot underwater scenes for the video Road to Nowhere at our house. And if you go to YouTube and look at the video of Road to Nowhere, you will see our backyard.
Oh,
and
cool.
You will see our swimming pool. It's there. And so Beth asked David, well, what is True Stories about? And David said, well, when we go on the road with the talking heads, we always stop at 7-Elevens. They have these magazines that have these absolutely ridiculous, incredible stories that aren't true. The space alien who comes down and makes love with a gardener's weed whacker. Stories like this that aren't true, but they're labeled as true stories. So we wanted everyone in the movie to have incredible stories that couldn't be true that are true. And Beth said, well, you ought to talk to my sweetie because he can hear tones. And David said, what? And Beth said, yeah, he hears tones and then he translates them and can tell you all about yourself. And David looked at me and said, what? And so I told David the story I just told you about the movement teacher and hearing tones, and it worked. I mean, it's been something I've been able to do my whole life. I could still do it. And anyway, Beth and I ended up being these primary screenwriters for the movie True Stories. And David, of course, rewrote it and changed everything we did, as is his purpose. I mean, it's his movie. But we were listed as the screenwriters. And I didn't see David after that for about a year. And then I'm driving in the Hollywood Hills and I'm at a stop sign and there's a knock on my window and it's David Byrne on a bicycle. And he goes, roll down the window. I roll down the window. He says, are you going to be home today? There's something I want you to hear. And I go, well, sure, David. So I go back to the house. David comes over, brings his guitar, and he said, I wanted to increase the idea of the character who can hear tones and read tones. And so I wrote this song and I wanted to see what you thought of it. And David Byrne sat there in my living room then and played the song Radiohead. And I heard it and I went like, oh my, I was almost in tears. It's such a brilliant song, beautiful song. And the life of Radiohead, not only is it a great song in and of itself, but in England, the band on a Friday, that was the name of their band. They didn't like the name and they loved David Byrne and they loved the movie True Stories. So they changed their name from On a Friday to Radiohead. And so the band became Radiohead based on David's song, based on my story, based on what I told my movement teacher my sophomore year of school.
That is awesome.
Strange but true.
Yeah.
Strange but true.
Wow. Now, I was going to say, shoot, we got to get to the new network. We got to talk about Avi Klein.
Oh, God. Avi Klein. Okay, so Avi Klein is a very strange character who is the head person of, I guess, what has been known as the Green Room, which is a Zoom YouTube thing that has about 1 million listeners. But what Avi's been trying to do is cobble together dozens of podcasters and interviews, and he combines different worlds. He'll take the world of sports, the world of show business, and kind of mix them together. And so Avi, I don't know how many he's got going. What my little position is as a storyteller. And so I'm doing stories on Avi's network. But he has sports figures. He has wrestlers, football players, the greatest coaches of all time, mixed with TV actors and singers. And he mixes them together. And right now, I think he has about 60 or 70.
Exactly. Yeah, he's up there. Yeah.
Different shows.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And so it's going to be a one-stop shopping kind of entertainment smorgasbord for anybody. And I got to tell you, it's great listening when I hear some of the people he has on the show. They're so interesting, and especially he mixes them up. Like when I've been on the green room, I think about 3 times, he always mixes me up with sports figures and some of my heroes that I've
probably
that
like Rick Barry, Lenny Wilkens. Yeah.
Lenny Wilkens, Jesse the Body Ventura.
Oh, wow.
I mean, what do I have in common with the wrestler except how did Avi know that I grew up loving wrestling? And all of these different people. So it's fantastic, and I'm very excited. In fact, I'm going to be talking to Avi this afternoon.
Oh, nice.
We're going to, on Saturday, this Saturday, we're going to be doing a telecast or a Zoom cast in which Avi's going to be explaining about the new network. That's KNEW. Don't Google New Network, NEW, because you're just going to get nothing. But if you go to KNEW Network, you'll be able to read all about Avi Klein's madness and this green room thing, which is I'm very much looking forward to.
Oh, yeah, it's got huge potential. I think it's going to be really great. Like you said, the amount of stars and talent that are going to be working on that with you all, I think is going to be just phenomenal. And then there's also this other guy who's going to be working on it as well. Me.
You?
Yeah, I'm going to be a part of it as well, so I'm excited about it.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. This is the first I heard of this. This is fantastic. Oh, man, this is I can't believe it. Okay, well, now I'm a very happy boy.
Heck yeah.
Very happy. I can't believe it. Are you going to be organizing? Are you going to be emceeing? What are you going to be doing?
A little bit of everything. I'm going to do some organizing of it, some booking of the guest, and actually probably even doing my own show.
Oh, God. Well, have me on as a guest.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I look forward to it. Yeah, it's always a pleasure having you on, and that's the reason why for New Year's Day, I sent you Happy New Year, but instead of NEW, KNEW.
Yes. Now the pieces are starting to fit together. Oh, James, this is such great news. I'm just thrilled. This is thrilled. It makes me so. I'm talking to Avi this afternoon, and I'll give him a big over-the-telephone kiss for all of this that's happening. This is going to be a blast.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing the amount of work and effort he puts into this. I mean, gosh, it's funny. He's like, yeah, I'm taking it easy with the Lionsgate. I'm only doing 2 movies a month as opposed to writing 4 movies a month. I'm like, only 2 movies a month? Most people take months to write 1 movie. He cranks them out. He's a beast.
He's a beast. But some people have that ability. Some people have that talent. You take a look at Mozart. Now, I'm not comparing Avi to Mozart, except in this one aspect, is that Mozart would go to the Duke of Prussia or whatever, and they say, well, what are you going to play tonight at our concert? And Mozart said, well, I have to write it. And he would sit down and write a symphony to be played that night. That's kind of what Avi does. And it's like he's able to churn out an incredible amount of work at an incredible high level. So it's a good group to be a part of.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely got a bright future. The new network is going to be huge. I mean, Kevin Farley is a part of it. Tom Sizemore, Michael Winslow. I mean, just all kinds of great folks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
some of my favorite actors of all time are going to be a part of the network. And certainly some of my heroes from the world of sports are going to be on the network. at a certain point in your life, which I'm at, there's more to look back at than look forward to. Well, I look forward to this new network because one of the things it enables me to do is look back at all of my heroes. And so for that, I thank Avi. And now I thank you for being a part of it.
Hey, my pleasure. That is just so awesome. Where is the best place to find, besides the new network, the Tobolowsky files and all those type of great things that you've done?
Yeah, what I did is the Tobolowsky files are a series of my stories that over the years I've done for NPR and PRI radio. They've been all over the world now on the internet. And it's just, if you go to tobolowskyfiles.com, and there's 99 episodes, 99 hours that are for free. There's no pay window, no salesman will call, but you have to spell my name right, or I think you go to a naked site. so just spell, if you just Google Tobolowsky files, TOBOLOWSKY, something close like that, tobolowskyfiles.com, you'll be able to see and hear all 99 episodes. And people do it when they walk their dog or when they exercise and when they're trying to go to bed at night.
Heck yeah. And then there's probably a link to it at StephenTobolowsky.com as well, I'm guessing. Yes.
StephenTobolowsky.com. There's a link there. And we're on Apple Podcasts. We're all over the place now. So if you go to Apple Podcasts, we're one of the top podcasts on Apple Podcasts. So go there too. It's everywhere. Tobolowskyfiles.com.
Awesome. It is always a pleasure having you on the show, Stephen.
Yes, sir. Same to you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom has products in stock and available to take home today. With 5 stores and almost 40 years in business, they are Ohio's appliance experts, and they help you to get the right product at the right price with a huge inventory. You can save 30 to 60% every day on everything from Bosch and Viking to LG, GE, and KitchenAid at unbeatable savings and in stock. Plus, Mattress Kingdom inside Appliance Factory has everything from Tempur-Pedic and Sealy, Stearns & Foster, and DreamCloud mattresses in stock. Stop by any one of Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom's 5 Ohio locations today or visit online at appliancefactory.com.
That wraps it up for this week's show. Hope you can join us again next week for This Dream House. This has been James Lewis. Enjoy your weekend.